evening, everyone. How are we all doing tonight? Hope everyone is having a wonderful evening or a lovely start to their day. This is going to be an interesting stream because this is a very unique idea that I don't know if I'm entirely certain whether this is going to work. So I guess we're just going to give it a shot and see what happens. So let me cut to the main stream so I can explain how this idea is going to work. Essentially, how this whole thing is going to work is I have pulled out my old page of all my homebrew creations that I have made over the years that I have been playing D&D and making D&D campaigns. And for the most part, some of it is quite balanced. However, there is a lot of it that is also really, really not balanced. Like if I go back to some of my older stuff, these magic-infused, like worgs and goblins, they are definitely not balanced at all. So I thought it would be, an interesting idea to basically go back over some of my old, definitely unbalanced homebrew and fix it up and see how we go. Just to try something new, because I don't want to be just doing purely, campaign creation. So let's just see how it goes doing other things. And once again, of course, we will have some beautiful music playing. I have found a nice trance playlist on Pretzel Rock that we shall chuck on. Of course, for those of you who are watching the VOD in the future, feel free to put on your own music. As always, you are more than welcome to play your own dulcet tunes as you watch me attempt to, fix up half the crap I made in this. But for that, let's get some tunes popping. Give it a second. There we go. Now I'm hearing it. All right, perfect. The music is a go. But so there has been a lot of things I've made. I guess I'll show like some of my better work when it comes to it. So at least in terms of monsters, probably the ones I'm more proud of are all these ones here for the Aarakocra and Harpies, because I was going to run basically a scenario / encounter that would have lasted multiple sections that essentially involved... Oh, sorry, I'm just adjusting the music briefly. Yeah, that was essentially going to involve an Aarakocra Harpy war, essentially. And so I thought it should be important that we make some distinctions of the two. So we've got, for the Aarakocrans, you have, the standard soldiers, which are, they're fairly tough. They're pretty much, I think, the same as the Aarakocra from what I remember. They are a little bit tougher because Aarakocra are technically a quarter rating. These are a half rating. So they're just a little bit stronger than standard Aarakocra. Then we have the elites, who are a step up. They're actually challenge level 2. And they have, again, similar abilities, but they use halberds instead. And they're reasonably tough. Again, limited by studded leather, so their AC can't go too high, but they've got decent hit points. And then we also have some light bearers who are essentially just, weaker mages. Hello, Zura, how are you doing? Yeah, no goals. No community challenges for now, Zura. I need a bit of time to prep new stuff. I've been a little bit busy with a few things, so no goals for now, but I will let you know when there are new ones. But so we do have. So I have made a few like interesting distinctions of Aarakocra and of course Harpies, of course. This actually used to be a very unbalanced Harpy class until I fixed it up. But now they're all reasonably they're now all on reasonable levels, with the Stormcaller being absolutely terrifying. I've been good, how about you? I am doing quite nicely, thank you for asking. But yes. But of course this is all stuff that's been cleaned up. Like even Maruda here has been has been properly challenge rated. So I was thinking, let's go all the way to the oldest by date modified, and we'll start slowly fixing these up. So it looks like first on the list is going to be a lot of these magic-infused creatures. So for context on these creatures that I made, these like magic-infused wargs, these magic-infused goblins, they were part of the very first campaign I ever ran, and they were designed to basically be these variants of standard like wargs and goblins that essentially had some type of elemental evocation magic infused within them, and it made them very, I guess, unstable is the way to put it. So, and I'll be honest, when looking at this, this stat block is not very balanced at all. Like challenge rating 1, definitely not, considering by the actual charts, this would definitely not pass for that. I'll just lurky as always. All good, Zero. All good, Zero. I do appreciate the lurk. But yes, so yeah, this is definitely not balanced. Like, I like the ideas that they have, but I think we can potentially, fix this up, rebalance it, make it better. Same for the magic infused goblins, which are honestly a lot of mess. Like, look at the stuff that this goblin can do. This should not be challenge rating 1. This should be like 5 or something like that. But yes, so we're just going to go through each of them one by one, and we're going to rebalance them based on based on chapter 9 of the DMG, and yeah, just make them into something that's actually balanced and playable for other people to use. I don't know how exactly I would share these via public domain. It might just be a thing of I essentially take a picture of, or like a screenshot or something of these stat blocks, and then you can just use them as you wish. But again, it's the kind of thing where we'd have to take a look into it first. Plus, it's also been a while since I've actually made any homebrew stuff, so this is probably going to be a bit of a mess, because I have to basically remember how to code in D&D Beyond, but it shouldn't be too bad. For now, though, let's start with the first one. So let's start with some magic-infused warg, and let's see what we can do. Yeah, I remember all this. Okay, so these ones are all... So for those of you who have never used the homebrew, I guess, the homebrew editor in D&D Beyond, it uses a lot of interesting like pre-build things. So like, for example, if you look here, you can set things like senses, you can set skill bonuses, you can set movement and everything, and of course languages. But the main magic comes here in the basic info. You can set a lot of different types. You can set the monster type, you can set their alignment, you can set their challenge rating, you can set size, you can even dictate if it's a swarm monster type, which is an interesting distinction to make. I haven't entirely figured it out myself, but it is definitely an important one. And of course, you can, if it's like a mythic creature or a legendary creature or has a lair, you can add those details. You can basically customize this thing as much as you want, which is a very nice tool to have. But of course, it's one of those things where you have to be very careful with how you balance it, which thankfully this entire chapter helps with. Like, I mean, it allows you to create monsters, allows you to create spells, allows you to create magic items. There's a lot of potential that we can do. So let's do a little bit of, let's get the relevant materials that we need for this. So first off, I'm going to get the block of an actual warg so that we have a comparator point for this. This is how I normally build my homebrew, by the way. If I'm making something, I will go off a comparator point, which in this case would be a warg. just a regular old warg. And now from here, this is where we kind of think about, okay, what seems reasonable to make this warg a little stronger or specialized in what we want. So if we were to say run a magic-infused warg that has ice, what would we want this thing to have? I think keen hearing and smell, it's still a base part of a warg. I would say yes. This, I think, can still pass this chilled body effect, but again, it's one of those things where anything that has the potential to proc damage in that type of fashion is usually looked down upon. Like things that have like, you know, contact damage or death bursts are usually not very well looked upon. Like, I think if I was to run this, I probably would make it weaker, like maybe just 1d6 cold damage. But again, that's what this is for. So we have most of this figured out. But let's do some quick math on what we currently have, and that's where we can start respecking things. So firstly, let's take a look at this handy chart, which is the monster stats by challenge rating. This is just a good starting indicator that you normally should be using. So let's see, well, what is the current like primary stats of this thing? So it's 15. It's 15 armor class with 38 hit points. So if we're working with that, granted the magical armor description is not very good. Let's say so we're starting with hit points, so we have to start from there. So it's 38. So 38 technically is a quarter. However, because of the high armor class, we're bumping it. We have to bump it up by 1 challenge rating. So at the moment it is currently a half just in terms of defensive capabilities. Then if we go to the offense that we've set up, let's take a look at that. We're currently running with +5 to hit, which is quite strong. And I'm pretty certain, if I remember correctly, the bite is the same amount. So the bite is the same. But it has extra damage stacked on top. So you're sitting at about 3d6 plus 3, which is looking to be, let's say the average is about 4. That's 12 plus 3, so you're looking at about 15 damage per target, and it can potentially target 2 people. If I remember correctly, there is a statement that says, what is it? Yeah, damage per round column. The monster relies more on effects of saving throws and attacks. Save DC instead of attack bonus. I think there's something very specific about how if it has like multiple attacks or it can hit multiple targets, then that changes things. Like, where is it? Ability scores modifiers. I think it's in here. Damage. So choose type of damage based on how you imagine it being delivered. If you want the damage output to vary slightly from round to round, you can translate into a single die expression or multiple die expressions. So, okay, so this is just explaining the averaging. There's something else. Here it is, the overall damage output. This is the key. This is the key point that makes this a very tedious task, but a very important one. So to determine overall damage output, take the average damage it deals with each of its attacks in a round and add them together. As different attack options, use the most effective attacks to determine damage output. So you basically go by your maximum. So if we look at our options, definitely the Chilling Bite is the highest. If we consider that this thing can hit multiple targets with that same attack, that then makes it, I think, even stronger. So my thought is probably we can have this Chilling Bite potentially not target 2 targets, because that could be a bit too strong. Because at the moment, if we consider that it's targeting 2, that ups the damage by a lot. So where is it? Creating, oh god, I forgot how annoying some of these things are to navigate at times. But let's see. So, okay, so we said it was 15, right? So this is already sitting it at 2. This is already making it sit at 2. And we've upped it to a +5, which brings it up to 3. So even without making it target 2 people, we're already bringing this thing up to what looks to be challenge rating 3 on offense, which means averaging out you're seeing between 1 and 2, which is kind of about where we're sitting. We're sitting at a challenge rating of 1 according to this. However, keeping in mind that it also has like a multi-target attack potentially, I think would actually bump it up to a 4, in which case we're then looking at a challenge rating of 2. So in theory, we could just buff this to a challenge rating of 2 so far, just purely based on offensive and defensive stats. But let's just keep that in mind. So from now we'll say offense, defense average. I'm making note of this in a separate document just to make my life a little bit easier. So currently just based off that, we're seeing that CR2. Now, if we then consider, so the armor class is fine. We've already adjusted for that. The +5 is appropriate for now. There is something very specific. This is it. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for, which is the okay, it's a large creature, so we need to be using D10s as well for health. Oh, we already did that. Okay, then that's fine. Okay, this is the one that's important. So if it has a resistance or immunity to several damage types, then you need to take these defenses into account when comparing its hit points to its expected challenge rating. So for resistances and immunities, you have to consider that this multiplier based on expected challenge rating. Yeah, so if we think about this, so monster with expected challenge rating of 6, 150 hit points, resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, effectively has 225 because of this multiplier. Now, they normally don't have vulnerability to more than 1 or 2 types of damage. So, okay, yeah, so if you're running multiple damage types that are prevalent, I think we can safely say, I think the 2 of these cancel each other out because we have what? Immunity to cold, which makes sense because it's ice infused, and vulnerability to fire. Seems perfectly fine. Now, conditioned immunities, I'm wondering if we should probably get rid of both of those because although maybe we could potentially get rid of, we could keep stunned. However, I'm pretty certain this thing is going to say something about if you add like those sort of things, then it's going to change. It's probably going to come under special traits, so we should keep that in mind. Conditioned immunities. Now, this is what we're looking for. Can be immune to 1 or more. Conditioned immunity should be intuitive and logical. Yeah, so if we look at the conditions, what would make sense for something that's magically infused or magically infused with ice, so to speak, to not be affected by? I think most of these it would definitely be affected by. Paralyzed, I'd say it would still be. I think something that's cold and calculating can still be frightened. So we'll remove that. I think just making it immune to stun. Actually, no, not even that. I don't think it should have any conditioned immunities if it's already going to have these 2 damage adjustments. If we compare worgs stats, what are we looking at? I think I did slightly buff the stats. Yeah, the dex is a little better, and the intelligence is a little better. And the charisma too. Not that I think that's any big change, so to speak, so we should be okay on that front. I'm just seeing. Monsters with classes, that's not what we need. I'm thinking we probably need to go for these special abilities. Oh yeah, this is it. This is the stuff about special abilities, so this might be an important one to keep in mind. Now, we're not running as many of these. We are running, I mean, granted, we are running Chilled Body, which I am going to actually ramp down to 1d6. Because again, it's something I think that should be treated as a case of, especially because it's a con save. I think we'll give it a DC 13 con save. And I think we can maybe afford to make it 2d6, just because this actually does require a save, and it's a fairly low one. The snowball's fine. I might set that to a... I might set this to a recharge of 5 to 6, just to make it a little bit less potent. Because there is a lot of stuff that talks about, like, if you're running special abilities, what you're meant to do. And I'm just trying to find where it would be. There it is. So special traits section. This is what we need. So this is something I remember very specifically. Oh no, this is just explaining stuff. So that's not as important. However, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. None of our stuff should have anything too crazy, so to speak. Like, we're not running any of these effects, so we should be perfectly fine. Like, these are more just things of, if you're running them, it just helps you at least modify. We're not going to worry about that. I am thinking, because of the fact that these are like stable magic-infused wargs, we could potentially make an unstable version. But I think these ones we want to have as being stable. So I'm going to call these stable magic-infused wargs, because I want these to be the ones that are like actually reasonably strong. And because of that, they don't need a death burst, because they're not going to have an instability in their power, at least from what I would think. So we'll remove that, which makes them a little bit easier. We'll keep the rigid ice. I think that's a good reaction to have. Yeah, so if a creature hits it with an attack, it can harden its body in retaliation, and till the start of its next turn, it gets a resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage. I think that's not too bad. It may actually raise its challenge rating a little bit, because this is an ability that's essentially reducing a lot of the damage it can take. We should also fix up the description a bit, because this was a very basic one. Because remember, this is something I made in my first campaign, so I had no idea how to properly give description. So I'm going to say a warg that has been stably infused. That has been infused with the arcane power of ice. So a warg that has been infused with the arcane power of ice in a stable condition. I want to say specifically stable condition, because we're going to be potentially making unstable ones as well. And I like this. They're calmer and more strategic than their non-infused counterparts. That's what I wanted to have, as something being very specific. Like, all of these, I think, yeah, they have like specific character, like personality traits that make them different to how our regular wargs are, because of their modifications. So I think our stable ones are fine. I'm going to keep this challenge rating level 2 for now, because I think it's currently reasonably balanced what it is. We don't need to change these. I'm going to change this to actually indicate hardened ice, to basically explain why their armor class is higher. Passive perception is perfectly fine. How much passive perception do orcs genuinely have? I guess it doesn't normally say. Yeah, the hit point die count's fine. What does this actually do? Oh, that's just number of hit dice. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Okay. They probably don't need to... Well, actually, their strength score is meant to be that high. I think they could probably... If they are ice infused, I want to say they're actually going to get a little bit of an extra hit to con. And the charisma score doesn't really... Actually, because they are meant to be a little bit smarter. So... Yeah, so I think we'll just buff their con a little bit, and we'll keep everything else as is. Maybe actually we'll lower their dex just a tad. But we'll keep their armor class high. So, yeah, so we'll lower their dex, up their con. That makes sense for something that's infused with ice. All right, I think we can save that. Now, granted, we could have also... We probably could have also... what's it called? Made a new one and kept the old one as a base, but I think this is better just to straight up override them. So now we have that type of warg. I think that's a good start for now. Now, of course, we'll need to make the unstable version too. So let's go ahead and make the unstable version briefly. So thankfully, the nice thing with D&D Beyond is that you can literally search up a previous monster you've made, and you can find it again. So let's grab our previously stable magic-infused warg, and let's make an unstable version. Perfect. So it's made a copy, which is exactly what we want. I'm actually going to get this one up so I can just double check the death burst quickly and make sure I have it set right. So here's what we're going to have for this. We want this to be a creature that is it's going to have the same kind of, like, you know, hit points, effects, all that sort of stuff. Honestly, we could probably... I actually think I may need to make these a little bit stronger, but I think for now they're fine. Just because of the adjustment to con. Because technically you would have more than that. Because what, it's 4d10. Oh, sorry, it's 6d10 plus 4. So I may need to change that later, because... Yeah, because normally it's 4d10 plus 4, so this would be 6d10 plus 6. Even then, it's not much of a change. It's literally just changing this to a 40. I might actually quickly go fix that up on the other one first before I forget. Because chances are I will. Chances are I 100% will forget. Now, where are you? Ew, this is all by date modified, so it's going to be right at the bottom. God, the fact I have 3 pages of this is genuinely insane. Okay. Let's quickly edit this, and we'll fix up those HP values. Thankfully, it's very easy, and because of how the sharing works on D&D Beyond, these get instantly shared privately amongst your campaigns, whereas other things don't. So for now, we'll just head back to creations. There we go. All right, so now, what do we do to make this thing unstable? I think the thing is that we want unstable wargs to be more dangerous because of the fact that they're more unstable. Now, for that, I actually want to be... So I'm trying to think, because the original stable ones are meant to be calmer and more strategic. Would it be the same if they were unstable? I don't think so in my mind. So my thought is this. We can make it so that these wargs, let's see, their calmer demeanor is offset by their intense pain. And yeah, so I'm thinking, my thought is their calmer demeanor would be offset by is offset by their intense pain, and so they'll be more, and so they'll actually be worse for wear. So actually, I'm thinking, yeah. So it's offset by their intense pain due to the cryonic effects on its body. And it wouldn't be as fast because they're 50 feet. What did I have these things set to in terms of speed? It's a very good question. Oh wait, yeah, I forgot I have to set this to monsters because this is showing everything. Give me other way. So stable, they were faster. That's probably shouldn't be right. I think these should be. This one should definitely have a speed of a regular warg. So I'm going to give this 50. 50 again. And what I'm thinking is the unstable, I'm actually going to have them be slower. So that's changed now, so that should be fine. I'm actually going to make these guys slower. So I'm going to give them, no. Oh wait, because I have to save it first. Huh? What is it complaining about? Can you just save, please? Fine, yeah, leave, that's fine. Just save the damn thing. Oh, and the page is not found. Okay, that's not good. What happened to that? That's going to be a little frustrating if I have to rewrite that description. Where are ya? Where are ya? It's going to be somewhere. It's going to be somewhere over here because normally it sorts by. There it is. There's our unstable. Yeah, so perfect. So we got everything back and it's all somewhat saved. Yeah. Okay. And yeah. So what we had originally, so it was the calmer demeanor is offset by their intense pain. Is offset even the right word? I feel like it would be something more along the lines of the calmer demeanor is broken by the intense pain of the cryonic energy leak. Is leaking even the right word? Hello, Steph. How are you doing? Good to see you. How have you been? We're just in time. We're doing a little bit of homebrew modification today. We're fixing up some really bad homebrew I made like a long time ago. Okay, so I guess you could say leaking through its body, or yay, homebrew. Yeah, you're gonna love some of this stuff, Steph. So I've made a lot of homebrew, and most of my more recent stuff's definitely balanced, but my older stuff we're going to go back through and we're going to try and fix it up. Starting with these, which are some magic-infused wargs that I made for my very first campaign. I'm doing okay. What about you? I am doing quite nicely. It's been a good day today, so I'm in a chipper mood, so to speak. But yes, so we're working on first fixing up these magic-infused wargs that I ran a long time ago. The explanation for these wargs was essentially I had this idea for essentially running these goblinoid tribes that had been basically used as test subjects to be infused with magic by a crazy wizard, and so because of that, their bodies had actually been heavily damaged by the experimentation done upon them. So because of that, they would be in a lot of pain, and they would be subjected to. But as like a trade-off, they would get a lot of potential power, that being evocation magic. So at the moment we're fixing up these wargs, which at the moment we've fixed up the unstable form. The unstable form was actually quite an interesting build because they were going to be basically the peak condition of, hey, this is what we want this is what we wanted these wargs to be when we infused them. And now we're going to make the ones that didn't survive the process properly and are actually going to be more difficult. So the way I'm thinking to like change them up is we're going to make them not as we're not really going to change their like AC or HP from what we originally had. What I'm thinking is we've already changed their movement. We're going to change their movement, so they're going to be slower because of the ice throughout their body. The chilled body is going to be a little bit stronger. I'm just going to basically buff all their stuff, but what I'm going to do is make it that they take damage each turn and have a death burst. And I think that should balance them out, potentially make them a little bit stronger and a bit more dangerous, which is fine because that's kind of the point. Like the more unstable they are, the more dangerous they are to the players. But of course, because of that, they don't last as long. They're not designed to survive, if that makes sense. It also gives you an insight into how the HTML coding works for D&D Beyond, because you can see they actually use a lot of standard like HTML conventions to link to certain things like what perception is and what the prone condition is. So a glass cannon of sorts, sort of. It would technically be run as a glass cannon by those tribes. So it would have stronger attacks than a stable magic-infused warg, but it would be essentially slowly damaging itself over time because the magic is essentially slowly killing the warg as it goes on. And the thing that's like that explains like why they even are still around is because, or like why they can survive outside of combat is because essentially the agitation of their movements and like that, you know, that primal drive to fight is what causes that pain throughout their bodies and all that damage. So let's quickly fix up the movement speed. So I'm thinking, wait, did I not save that save? Why does it do that? Yes, leave the site. Let me freaking go and fix this thing. Okay, edit movement. We're going to make this, I'm going to say 40. Because standard wargs are 50. I'm going to say this one can be 40. So it's a slight movement decrease, but not too much. If it's not hampering enough, I might actually change it to 30 potentially. I do not know why, but D&D Beyond is really acting slow tonight. Normally it is never this slow when I've coded in this. But yes, okay, so that's now sorted. So that's movement speed fixed. This can all roughly stay the same. Let's quickly grab our handy dandy stat table to help us out here, because that will give us a rough indication of how strong this thing is going to be when we do some changes. So originally the two attacks that the magic-infused wargs were going to have was this snowball which was on a recharge, and a chilling bite that could target 2 people. That was going to make it a little bit stronger. My logic for why it was going to target 2 people was essentially the idea that, you know, the chilling breath from the warg could actually lash out at the players a bit more. So it makes it a bit more. It gives the incentive to not just, you know, front on it and let it get close. So it incentivizes, you know, actually splitting up and drawing its attention away from other people. So I think what we'll do is we keep all this. I think because it's unstable, we're going to actually up this damage by just a tad and make it 9 3d6 cold damage. We'll keep the DC the same because then we can at least try and balance out how strong the effects are. The snowball's fine. Actually, we can up the snowball a bit. I think we can just up everything by just 1 dice, and that should be fine. So this would be 12, so 3d8. And then this would be... And then we'll up the damage of the cold by 2d6. Or 2d6, so to speak. Yeah, because technically the bite shouldn't be stronger. It should just be the effects of the cold magic running through it that will make it stronger. The rigid ice will keep. We might actually make this a little bit... we might make this a little bit weaker just because of the nature of how this is going to work. Now we're going to leave room for this effect, but we're going to quickly grab the one thing that is necessary for this, which is the Death Burst. So let's quickly throw the Death Burst in. Yeah, so when it dies, explodes in a burst of... do you describe it as cold air? Let's just say chilling. Yeah, a burst of chilling energy. And a burst of chilling energy. We'll say each creature within 10 feet. 10 feet seems reasonable. We can afford to make it a little bit lower, so we'll make DC 12. Should be fine. This needs to be cold damage. And then all unoccupied spaces within the blast radius are slicked with ice or covered in ice. The reason I put this stipulation in is because I like the idea that the Death Burst may also add an environmental challenge, so it may make difficult terrain based on where it dies, and gives more incentive to like strategically move the creature potentially. I might actually make this burst a little bit just a little bit stronger, because again, this is something I want to be like a genuine threat. So if they run unstable things, it's not going to be good. I'm going to give this, what do I call this? I'm trying to think of the word to describe it. I don't want to say like racked with pain, but essentially that's what I want to call it. So like racked with pain, and this is going to be the thing that's like basically the countdown timer for the warg itself, and stipulates what causes the warg to hurt itself in such a fashion. Like walking around should not be a problem, but things like say so something like maybe when the warg makes performs a chilling bite or snowball action. Chilling bite or snowball action. It takes 2d. Yeah, I'm wondering, is 2d4 enough for 2d4? For slashing damage, because that's not one it has a resistance to. I'm wondering if that's going to be enough, because if we work on an average of 4, keeping in mind this thing has 40 hit points, that means assuming it's not getting attacked, it's going to be basically going to be ticking down for at maximum a minute. So a max of 8? Yeah. So a max of 8 slashing damage it will take every time it does its actions. So if we think about it for a second, if it's at the absolute minimum, this thing will live for 5 turns. 5 turns, assuming that you roll max damage on the racked with pain effect. And at minimum, you'd be looking at, what is it? That's 2 slashing damage each turn. So what's 40 divided by 2? That's 20 turns, which is 2 minutes. So it doesn't last very long. 2d4 plus 2 instead? That's a good idea, actually. Because, yeah, we do want to make this thing it is unstable for a reason, so I think I do agree with that, Steph. Maybe we should make the damage just a little bit more. So it'd be 6 damage, maximum of 10, which means it would last 4 turns, which means these things would be much more dangerous. And I think we'll just restrict it to the Chilling Bite or the Snowball action. I don't think we'll have it that Rigid Ice triggers it, because that seems a little unfair to the creature. Like, you know, it only being able to last potentially, you know, minimum 4 turns is a bit of a worry. So we might, yeah, because then also if it's 4, that means it lasts for a maximum a minute. So it lasts anywhere between a minute and like 24 seconds. That makes sense based on if it's like highly active. I'm thinking the Rigid Ice we might slightly change just because of like the unstable nature. Like, I think all the abilities can change just slightly based on certain things. Especially because also keep in mind, Snowball can only be done if a magically infused Ice Goblin is on there. Like, I wanted it to be a thing of the wargs get stronger if they're paired with a goblin that has that same effect, essentially. So it kind of incentivizes this idea that, you know, the goblins and the wargs have like a partnership, essentially. But we'll roll with that for now. We'll keep that as it is, as that stipulation. I'm thinking we maybe make the ice a little bit more rigid. So let's... what's like a word that means more rigid? God, am I really going to have to look up a thesaurus right now? Thesaurus. I'm just going to, because... Or maybe just straight up... Maybe not rigid ice, maybe just like... Maybe just enhanced, or... words are failing me. I want to go with a very specific description, like not rigid, but like something that's actually restrictive. Maybe like restrictive ice. Or binding ice? Binding ice actually could be a good way to describe it. So basically, when it hits the attack, it can choose to harden its body in retaliation. So the next turn, it has those resistances. But its movement speed is reduced by 10. By 10 feet. Because again, that, like, you know, because of how the ice is binding to it, it would potentially restrict its movement speed more. I think that should work as a little bit of an extra change. I'm trying to think what you would call this. I guess I'm going to call this actually Freeze Thaw Trauma. I'm going to call it that. I think that's a better phrase for that particular effect. Yeah. There we go. So now that should be fine. Calm demeanor offset by intense pain should connects his body. And is less likely to survive in a I'm trying to think. Unlikely to survive in a hostile attack. Yeah, so that should be fine. I think that gives a good premise. That gives a good premise for the description. So I guess now the question is we need to check if these numbers change any because of how this is working. Because we're working by the stats, it's still a half rating in terms of defense, because they are quite weak. With how we've upped the damage, what is the thing that hits the hardest? This is 16, this is 12. Yeah, so it would probably still be the Chilling Bite. So I'm going to say, where is it? Let me just get this up again. So that's what? That's now 16, which was up from 13. Was that actually how I feel like my math is off. It's 13. Yeah, okay, so 13, because this is 6 plus 3. Yeah, so that's fine. So 13 up to 26. So that previous one actually sat at 3, but I guess because of other effects it sits at 2, so that's fine. But now that we've upped it to 32, which I think is what this one's running. Yeah, 32 at maximum. That bumps it up to 4. So this is actually more likely to be potential. It actually doesn't change the rating too much. But I think because of other effects, I'm actually going to up it to a 3 in terms of challenge rating, just because I think Death Burst is going to make it worse, and plus like other effects have been heightened. So I'm going to run that as a challenge rating 3 for now. We may up it later. No, the stats can stay as they are. We might up the AC by 1. Yeah, we'll up it to 1 by 1, and then that should be everything we need to change for the stable one. Perfect. Now let's hope this thing remembers to save. I don't know why, like, some of these button clicks are really not registering with D&D Beyond. I'm wondering if like, ironically, their homebrew creator system is unstable at the moment. I could believe that, in all honesty. All right, perfect. So now we have both a stable and unstable version of this ice warg figured out. Now I'm not going to go through every form of these wargs, because let's be honest, they're all going to be basically the same except for like their element, so I'm not too worried about that. My next thought is now working with these magic-infused goblins of ice, because I technically did make 2 different versions. So we have the regular one, which is a challenge rating 1, which it really shouldn't be, considering this thing literally has Ray of Frost as a normal attack. So definitely shouldn't have that. Plus being able to cast Sleet Storm, a 3rd level spell. Yeah, that's definitely not balanced. And then I think the boosted one, where is it? Where's the boosted ice one? This one I think was even worse. Oh yeah, no, I remember this one being worse. So I'm thinking what we'll probably do is we'll change the regular ice magic infused one into the stable, and the other into the unstable, is my thought. Because again, the idea of the unstable is that they got infused with too much magic, and so it's starting to actually hurt them. So let's go ahead and we'll start by editing the regular one first. This is probably going to take a lot of balancing, because these things were genuinely ridiculous. Also, I should grab a Goblin stat block, so I have a reference. Because once again, like any good art, you need a reference. I'm just moving stuff around so I have access to everything I need. I'm going to move that there. All right, so Goblin. What are they capable of? I think this thing was capable of most things, but I'm pretty certain I removed a lot of the stand. Hello, Hungry Kobold. How are you doing? Welcome to this interesting experiment of a stream, so to speak. Yeah, how are you doing? Hope you're having a nice evening or morning, depending on where you are. Or maybe it's middle of the day. That could be the case. As the name implies. So you're hungry. Fair enough. I can completely understand that. All right. So let's take a look at the magic-infused goblin and figure this out. So, in its current state, what if we were to run it as is? What would be the actual power of this thing? So I don't actually remember how much health this thing had or how I changed it from a regular goblin. This was 15, and it had 7 hit points. Yeah, so this thing was way super strong for what it was. So we need to change that because there's no way this thing should have 36. That actually seems kind of ridiculous. So I'm thinking we probably do a complete overhaul for this one, which is perfectly fine. So let's do some quick fixes to this. So if we were running something that is magically infused, I'd probably say they would still be smart enough to wear at least some level of armor, which normally they run leather armor and shield. Leather armor is 11 plus dex, so it'd be 13, and then the extra shield gives them to 15. Because we're not going to be using the shield, I'm actually going to give them a lower arm. I'm actually going to keep them at 15, but I'm going to state leather armor and what is it? Like ice, essentially. What did I say in this one? Yeah, hardened ice. Yeah, so leather armor plus hardened ice. So that can explain why they still have an AC of 15. So the hardened ice is giving them an extra +2. Now, strength-wise, the ice is not going to do much for that. So I think their strength can go to what they use as a standard. Again, their dex can drop. Their con can go up. Oh, thank you for the stretch and the hydrate, Steph. Let's just quickly do that. Refreshing. Ugh. Ugh. I always underestimate how much I need a good stretch now and then. Oh, that feels better. Whew. Rolls out the shoulder blades nicely. Thank you for that, Steph. Give, please. It's all good. What? Out of curiosity, Kobold, what is the give, please? Is it for this goblin or is it for something else? Now I'm curious. Yeah, so we can up its con to a 12, I'm going to say. Its dex can drop to a 12 as well. Anytime. Well, cheers, Steph. Last time I stretched, I heard my ankle crack and it hurt for like a minute. Ooh. Yeah, that would do it. I've never had an ankle crack. I've had arms. I've had my arm crack. I've had my elbow crack. I've never seen an ankle crack. Like, are you sure you didn't just actually break it, Kobold? I'm joking. You probably didn't. Okay, so let's do some extra things. Powers of perception. Their wisdom should be back to. Wisdom should stay at an 8. Charisma can stay at an 8 too. Intelligence can stay as regular. I think it should only really change these 2 scores. I'm just thinking. Yeah, so Dex can go to. Yeah, maybe their Dex can go to 13 and their Con can go to 11. It shouldn't be major changes. Or maybe we can at least bump their Con to a 12. And maybe in score by 1. No, it was probably a slight pinch on a nerve. Is that how that works? I didn't think nerves could cause a cracking sound. I didn't think a pinch would do that, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Look, as someone who is a biomedical engineer, I know I had to do principles of physiology. Do I remember most of it? No, I don't. Unsurprisingly. Okay, so yeah, these should be fine to run with. Do they really have 8s in most stats? That's actually insane. Okay, that's fine though. That should work perfectly for them. I'm going to remove these conditions because we don't need them. Movement can stay the same for now because these are the stable ones. The sensors shouldn't change. Everything that's fine. I know I heard a crack and then it sunk for a while like I got pinched. Then yes, that is probably... Yeah, the stinging will definitely be from the pinch. The crack is most likely... it's most likely probably would have been like a standard like situation of how bones crack, which is normally either like cartilage rubbing against the cartilage of the joints running against each other, or I don't think the ankle is a synovial joint, but it could also just be. It also could be the synovial fluid making that cracking noise. But yeah, it definitely sounds like you pinched a nerve. If you got a stinging sensation, it probably would have sparked a pain receptor. Okay, so this is all fine. I'm going to quickly actually change this thing to stable magic-infused goblin because this is an important stipulation. All that can stay the same. They are small. That I really should have ran them as small. I'm going to quickly save this before I forget to, because like any good thing, you should always be saving your work. What the frick happened? I hate when you get that not found page. All right, let's try and find my freaking ice goblin again. Now that D&D Beyond's decided it's going to act weird on me. It's probably on the first page again. There it is. Come back here. I wasn't done with you yet. I don't know why it does that anytime you change the name. Like, that's like the one thing that's broken every time we've saved. All right, so we've fixed all that up. So the stats are mostly fixed. We need to fix hit points. But how's the homebrew? Because it's quite hard to read because everything looks small. Yeah, sorry, that's the best my resolution can do on this. But the homebrew's doing all right. We've fixed up these magic-infused wargs that I ran a long time ago. So to explain like why I even had like these idea of magic-infused wargs, it was essentially the idea that you know the goblinoid tribes had essentially been used as test subjects and so had been infused with evocation magic. So we have a stable version where the magic infusion worked successfully and the creatures actually fused with that element in a reasonable fashion. And then there's an unstable version where they're slightly stronger, but as you can see with this ability, the freeze Thor trauma, they take damage whenever they use their abilities. So yeah, it's kind of this weird setup that I had left over from my first campaign. Sounds pretty cool. It was a cool concept. However, in execution, it was not great. For example, these original versions of the magic-infused goblins were stupidly broken because, for one thing, they had an on-touch damage effect, which you couldn't really avoid except for a con save. They had a death burst. They had innate spellcasting of Sleet Storm, which is a 3rd level spell, which is really not what they should have. And then just overall they got buffed to a point where they should not have been CR1. They would have been more run as challenge rating 5 or 6. And so I was like, that's not right. I should not have done that. But I was young and dumb at the time. So I thought I would go back and repair some of this and make it potentially usable for people. Because despite how this looks, I am actually fairly decent at homebrew and stuff like nowadays. Like if I go view my creations again, one of probably my better forms of homebrew that I made were these Aarakocra. So I made like basically alternate variants of Aarakocra forms where you had essentially elites, which were basically slightly strong, which were basically like more highly trained Aarakocra with better defenses. There were like light bearers, which were basically almost like Aarakocran clerics tied to a particular civilization I was planning to run for an encounter, and then the Star Chards, which were like higher leveled like clerics essentially, or yeah, higher level clerics essentially. I think they were more like wizards or sorcerers though in the traditional sense. But that was like some of my better homebrew. So I was like, I may as well. I did want to fix these up at some point, so I thought might as well just make it something fun and interactive, and people can give ideas. I'm still super new to D&D and doing my first campaign ever, so homebrew creation does feel like it requires so much thought. Yeah, if you're doing your first campaign, yeah, don't do this stuff. Don't do homebrew creation. It's a lot of mess, and browsing for good homebrew is really hard. Like if you want good like homebrew sources, my best recommendation is to look up on YouTube. There's a lot of good channels that do homebrew content for a living, and they give it out to public domain for people to use. My personal recommendation is a guy called the DM Lair, Luke Hart. He does really good homebrew stuff that can help, and he has good D&D advice videos that are very impartial. I'm a player and I'm technically playing a modified race for my first character. Interesting. Might I ask what your first character is by chance, Kobold? Because now I'm curious. Because I remember my first character. My first character was a water genasi sorcerer, which is interesting because most people are like, you really shouldn't be running spellcast as your first character, but I really picked up the magic system like hella quick, so I surprised a lot of people in that fashion. Let me remember how these guys were. They were a little tougher, weren't they? Yes, they were. Yeah, the ice was meant to give them extra hit points. Okay, so yeah, so we'll go 46. We'll go. Oh, sorry, no, we need them as D6 because they're goblins. We'll go 46 plus 4, which is, what is that? Technically, it's by average, so 14 plus 4, so 18. Yeah, they can be a little bit tougher. That should work. But yeah, no, I would say don't start with homebrew creation if it's your first campaign. Use your first campaign to work on your DM skills and things such as like balancing and just like, game balancing and story writing. That's what you should always start with. I'm using the base stuff of a Yuan-Ti Pureblood, but I get a feat the DM gave me, so I'm more like a Yuan-Ti Abomination. So full snake with arms, and I resemble a black cobra. Interesting. That seems a little strong in essence, because like, Yuan-Ti's abominations are quite beefy. But I mean, if that's what your if that's what your DM's cool with, and he's able to balance that out well, I'm sure it can work. It's interesting. It is interesting though. I do respect those who I do respect DMs that are prepared to run stuff like Yuan-Ti Pureblood and other like insane races, because again, it helps to reinforce the idea that not all quote unquote evil races, like all members have to be evil, which is a very important stipulation. But yes, I will say though, Kobold, if you are interested in trying to learn homebrew, this is probably the biggest resource you'll need, which is Chapter 9 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. This basically gives you a layout on how to create your own monster stat block or modify one. So again, that's just something as a stipulation. It isn't the feat it just lets me have fangs and a tail that lets me grapple. And since I'm a ranger, that's an archer, it doesn't come up too much. Okay, yeah, no, that's balanced. I agree with that. Yeah, like letting you have the fangs so you can make bite attacks, I'm fine with that. And yeah, the tail that allows you to grapple, that's fine as long as it doesn't, like, have any like weird modifications that would mean that you somehow have advantage like grappling with your tail. Then I think that's fair. Like, that actually sounds quite balanced as a modified race. Okay, cool. Okay, so we fixed. Okay, so the stats are fixed, the health is fixed, the armor class is fixed. Let's get to. Yep, so let's get to. What is this? Oh no, we don't care about that. Okay, so yeah, let's fix up the traits, because this is going to be the big thing. The Fang attacks also let me inject like 1d6 poison, but I have a limit to how much I can inject. Okay, that makes sense. So it's like you'll do, so like I guess you do like piercing damage from the bite, and then like a certain number of times per, like, say, long rest or short rest, you can deal an extra bit of poison damage. That's a good way to run it. It's like makes me think of like the Dragonborn breath attack, but with a bit more of a modification. I like that. I like your DM Kobold. I feel like I would get along with him quite well. Okay, so I also want to quickly just double check descriptions. Yep, so most of this is the same. It's just the inner stable condition. There we go. That's fine. That description's fixed out. First time I used that, I bit a mimic who was biting me and beat it at its own game, and now the party calls me Master Biter. That's pretty good. I like that. That's really funny. God, now it's just making me think of the funny D&D stories I've had before. Okay, now here's my thought with magic-infused goblins. They would still have a form of weapon. So I think I'm thinking I'm going to give them a scimitar. I think they can have a scimitar. Or maybe we keep what they have. Okay, I have an idea. Because technically, I think their people would still want them trained in a form of weaponry. Oops, need to fix that. So I'm thinking we'll keep the scimitar, but because they still need, a basic form of attack, just in case they enter into melee range. But their skill is going to be with the spells being, with, their ice abilities being more of a ranged effect. Although we could also say they could potentially make their scimitar a little bit buffed. Our other ranger, melee. Hell yeah, melee rangers. I like that. There's a joke with him that he is too weak to wooden objects. Since the second fight, he got one shot down by an animated shelf, and it's even funnier since he's a dampier. Ooh, that would do it. It actually reminds me, funnily enough, of a story where what was it? One of my players in my first campaign was playing a warlock, and another friend of mine was playing a rogue. And at one point, the warlock was kind of just rambling on about all these things, and the rogue decided, you know what? I'm going to try and basically do a flick with my. He basically wanted to flick his dagger off his foot and try and hit the warlock in the forehead with the butt of the dagger. So not to harm him, just kind of stun him. And he ended up rolling a nat 20 on it. And because of that, he was like, you know what? I'm also going to add sneak attack on top of it. So in one move, he knocked out the warlock by flinging the butt of the dagger into their forehead. And it's possibly one of our funnier jokes, along with the spider looked at me funny, which is another great story. Yeah, okay, so it's plus. We'll add that plus section in. We won't make it as strong as that, because that's actually kind of ridiculous. I actually might make it... I actually just might change it just straight up to cold damage and make it that they can just summon an ice scimitar. That probably makes more sense. I think the ice punch can be something given to like the unstable versions. Like the stable ones will still have some level of stability to them. It's even funnier, we came across an orc who used a wooden club and his rolls went down the drain fighting him. Oh, yeah, that would do it. It's fun. I do remember situations like that where I once saw my friend roll 3 natural ones in a row in the middle of a combat sequence. We were very worried he was going to die. Okay, so these guys technically act like sorcerers, so we'll run them as if they are sorcerers. So what's the normal 2-hit? It's based on their proficiency, it's going to be quite low, but +2 is the normal, so +2 -1, I guess. So I think we'll give them equal, so +4 to hit as well. Oof, that poor friend. Yeah, he was... Yeah, to be fair, it was the one and only instance where he ever had that happen to him, but in that moment it was not great, especially because we were like basically fighting the town guard in a tall building that nearly got destroyed when our druid decided to wild shape into a giant elk. Our party's a weird bunch of characters. All parties are a weird bunch of characters, Kobold. Like, if I described half the parties I've run in campaigns or played with in campaigns, they're absolutely nuts. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Yeah, range 60 feet, it's fine, 1 creature. I'm gonna make it 1d8 +2, which is... What is that? It'll be 1 more than that, so 6. Yeah, we'll just run a weakened Ray of Frost for the goblins. Depending on the DM, I would have looked at them and asked if I could bring out a cheat dice so I didn't have to roll a 1 again. Yeah, that's fair. I would have jokingly asked the same thing. It makes me think of, if anyone has seen this Door Monster sketch, there's a Door Monster sketch about I think it's just called D&D Bad Dice, and it's literally this guy like playing just a one-on-one session, and he keeps rolling ones, and he gets so frustrated he puts everything in a dice jail, and then he's like, you know what, these dice are cursed, they have to go, and they melt it down to try and make a dice that can roll higher than a 1, and it's like this whole montage, and then they roll the final forged dice, and it rolls a 2, and they're so happy. Drow Dampier Ranger, Centaur Unicorn Warlock, Yuanti Abomination Ranger, Aarakocra Owl, didn't have the owl race, Fighter, whose eyes don't look the same direction, and the Elf Wizard. Yeah, that's a very unique one, I will agree, Kobold. That's definitely a more exotic collection. Now let me remember, what was... I remember one of the earlier campaigns I was in, I myself was playing a Fire Genasi Sorcerer, because I at the time, that was my favorite build to run. Granted, this was the second character I ever made. We also had an Protector Asimar Fighter, a Hobgoblin Barbarian, and what was the last one? It was something... Oh yeah, we had a Changeling Rogue and a... Oh, what was the last one? Oh, brain is trying to kick in. The ASMR, Oh yeah, and we had a Drow Elf Bard who was a bit of an idiot. Like, it was literally made in his description, and that he was too dumb to recognize that he was casting magic. At which point we all went, "You sure you want to do that, mate? That seems a little not so smart." But yeah, no, that is definitely a crazy party comp. Definitely a crazy party comp. It's funny, I've had like a lot of times where like, D&D parties will basically not have a single common race in it. Like no elf, no dwarf, no human. And honestly, sometimes they're the more fun parties to run. But again, it's up to what people want to play. I, for one, tend to go for more exotic races anyway because it's more fun. Like at the moment, my favorite character that I've been meaning to run is a Loxodon druid. That is a Circle of Dreams druid, and he was a lot of fun. He was in a short-lived campaign that only lasted, I think, about 5 sessions, and then it went on an indefinite hiatus. Yeah, I think, okay, the Cold Breath can stay as it is. That's like the one strong attack it has. I almost kind of think we could potentially buff. Can we even buff the damage? Because it's already weak enough because it's using their charisma score. Unless we buff it just to be a 10 straight up. But then again, it is Goblin, so I think we can afford to just make it a little bit weaker. So let's make it. We'll keep it at +4. And yeah, we'll keep it that. I think, okay, so that one should be fine. The Ray of Frost is now weakened enough. My snake's backstory is she's adopted by a human ranger after he spotted a shifty-looking dude with an egg he couldn't recognize. That's a pretty good backstory. I remember I was going to run a Yuan-Ti character whose story was that essentially she was she was considered like the avatar of one of the Yuan-Ti gods, and she actually had a petrifying gaze, and the way that the tribe treated her was that essentially she was always blindfolded and was only ever used for punishment, essentially. So she lived a very quiet, very isolated, sheltered life. And then one day adventurers just go through, they destroy the temple. She somehow survives in complete panic, and then essentially runs out into the forest, scared for her life, comes across a hermit who recognizes what she is and basically helps her to learn how to work with her magic in a way that she doesn't have to rely on her eyes. So she essentially becomes like a sorcerer or a druid or something along those lines. And one of the items that I wanted her to start with, as like a very small magic item, was that she essentially had a pair of rings where that each had an eye on them, and so she'd put on one and the other person would put on one, and while that other person wears the ring, she's able to see through their eyes. And yeah, that was the whole character idea. But yeah, that was the one Yuan-Ti character I have designed so far to try and use in a campaign. And I thought it was a cool idea at the time. I still think it kind of is, but, that's just me. Okay, these guys I think are a little bit better. Again, move the Death Burst. Yeah, the Chilled Body can stay the same. Okay, this is the thing I want to slightly change, which is the innate spellcasting. I think what I'll do is I'll make it spells that are not as strong, I think. I'm gonna just give. I think maybe we give it the Ice Knife. I made it so she didn't grow up with the mentality of Yuan-Ti mentality, but the human ranger did keep her in the forest because I don't think bringing a giant snake with you to sell pelts will net sales. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to make sure that they don't grow up with the mentality of the Yuan-Ti because otherwise they just can't survive in regular society. So normally that's why I kind of have the idea that if you're running a Yuan-Ti, they either need to be grow up outside of that mentality, or they're adopted at a young age and trained out of the mentality. Because the Yuan-Ti are very, very strict about upholding their religious tenets. Okay, this is where I kind of need to do a bit of browsing here, but what... This is going to sound so bad. What spells use ice in it? Because there may be other interesting spells that they can use. I just need to know what involves ice. And find weaker ones too. But yeah, no, I do agree. Taking a giant snake with you to sell pelts definitely does not net sales, and if anything, would probably make people think it's a little weird. Just a little weird. Not completely weird, just a little. I say jokingly. Okay, where is it? There's definitely... I feel like I remember seeing something that's like an ice slick or something at like first level that we could give. Create or destroy water doesn't make sense. I'd almost be tempted to say maybe I give them... What is it? The Armor of Agathis? Because I could see them potentially using Armor of Agathis. Because again, it is Spectral Frost. But again, that just kind of feels weird. I guess if I go a little bit... If I set this to ice, or cold, sorry. Let's see how this filters the spells. This might give me some extra ideas. Absorb Elements, yeah. Armor of Agathis. Chaos Bolt, Chromatic Orb. Kind of cold, no. We're not doing that. Ice Knife. Yeah, pretty much all the ice stuff is either like super weak or super strong. So what I'm thinking is, what we'll do is, we'll just give them the ability to just innately cast Ice Knife. Yeah, and again we'll say +4 to hit. Like it should basically have the same stack as the Ray of Frost. And then I think that will... And yeah, twice a day seems perfectly fine. Innate spellcasting ability, charisma. Yep. Okay, that's fine. I think that's going to be much more balanced because what? First level Ice Knife is very weak, if I remember correctly. Where is it? Ice Knife. There it is. Yeah, it's 1d10 with a chance to take 2d6. So yeah, definitely not too much of a thing. Also makes her not understand bartering, so she buys stuff at full price, no questions asked, and the party watched her get ripped off by a dwarf merchant. Oh, I've definitely had those situations. I actually had a character who was a charlatan, and one of the flaws I took was that she basically she believes that she can fool others, but doesn't believe that others can fool her. And that's how she ended up losing a bunch of gold, gambling against another charlatan with loaded dice. Okay, so yep, that should be all fine. Sensors. They do actually have skills, so I should keep that in mind. I can go back to 9. Okay, I think that fixes up most of the abilities that it has. Yeah, that should be more manageable. So now let's think about the logic. So if their singular attack can do 2d8, so that's maximum 16 from any one thing. Because we're not counting Ice Knife in this, because it's a limited use ability. Where is it? Ice... where is that table? I literally had it here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's first figure out from hit points and AC, what is this thing running? So average hit points is 18. So it's an eighth. Take it up by that, so it's now a quarter. Then on top of that, what's the damage output? Damage output at its highest is based on Cold Breath, which is 2d8. 2d8 is a max 16, so it's 2. Mijikai rounds off to a half, so we can round it to 1. So I think this is now actually a CR1 magic-infused Goblin. I do have a backup character if my snake does die. Always good to have backups. Always good to have backups, Kobold. I have way too many backups. Like here, if I quickly show this you're going to find funny. So, I have, if this thing will load, I have 106 characters. And this includes characters I have ran before in previous campaigns. I have 106 characters, and I can throw them into any campaign at any time. And a lot of them have like, dot point backstories that I can elaborate on depending on the world setting. So yeah, always good to have backups, essentially. They're custom lineage, so kind of homebrew, and they're based off a Florin from Starbound. The DM's agreeing to it. That's kind of neat, actually, because I do really like the Florins from Starbound. So that's kind of cool that they're prepared to run a Florin star race. I don't suppose you have that on hand. I'd love to read it. Jay, I think that's a bit much on backups. I know it is, but I love making things, Steph. I'm always going to end up making things, so I will always have way too many characters. Look, I know it's a lot. I know it's definitely too much. Is it going to stop me from creating them? God, no. I love creating them. And besides, it always means that I have like, very flexible options. So it can be like, okay, we need a healer. I have a healer character. We need DPS. I have a DPS character. We need a full caster. Got that. Like I always have ideas that I can swap out between if need be. But yeah, I know it's over the top. Then again, considering how my family is, over the top basically runs in our blood. Okay, so this is definitely now CR1. I'd say this is CR1. Let's quickly save this before I forget to. Why is it I'm having to hit the save changes button like 3 times to get it to actually save? That's a little bit annoying. Okay, so basic information is figured out. Let's quickly add back their stealth skill that I removed for some reason. Where is it? Stealth, 6. There we go. I can send you a link of their character sheet. It's still being worked on, so it's like bare. Yeah, no, all good. You feel free to whisper that to me on Twitch, and I'll take a look, because I am genuinely curious to know like what kind of traits they ran on the Florins, because I remember their lore in Starbound, and there isn't much that like is explained in terms of how they can do things. I should actually give them back their nimble escape, I think, because they are still goblins, so they should have their nimble escape ability. Let's see. Nimble escape. I wonder how I code that as an action. Goblin can take the... Okay. What is it? That... Actually, let's... Hang on, do that. There we go. Perfect. Give them back their nimble escape. The DM didn't do anything with it, yet it's all me just seeing stuff and working it all out. Fair enough. Yeah, because I could think that, like, with the Florins, because, they're meat eaters, and again, it's like, they're tribal people. I'd arguably say you could... There's some stuff you could do with it. But, again, I don't remember Starbound lore too much. Let's take a quick look. I'll open off stream just in case it's anything too, like, I don't want to say too sensitive, but like, I just want to double check it first. So let's see. Features and traits. Rogue, racial traits, humanoid, small or medium. Interesting. Oh, so you get a feat and a variable and a proficiency. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, okay. Wait, squat nimbleness, isn't that the halfling racial feat? Yeah, okay, that doesn't look too bad. I definitely say you could probably look into the florins and see if there's maybe like certain flavors you could add. Heck, if you want, I'm happy to try and like draft up a like a florin race that you could use if you want. I'm cool with that. I'd love to do that sort of thing. Dean agreed that she is one of a kind created by a bored god. Just Rilliphane got bored one day and was just like, you know what? I want this flower to dance. Okay. Okay, I think this goblin is good to go. I'm just gonna test something quickly, because I wonder if I type in, what is it? Action disengage / action. Does that actually link the hypertext? Notice their int and charisma though. Oh, I did not see their charisma or intelligence. Or let's take a look at that quickly. Because what, this is a, I didn't see what class it is. It's a rogue, right? Oh wow. They're -1s. Oh no. Let me guess, was this off rolled stats? Was this off rolled stats, Kobold? That's like the only way I could think you could have stats that low. Because that's definitely not off point buy or any other system I can think of. Okay. Yeah, rigid ice, fine. Okay, I think we fixed up everything. Save changes. Nah, point buy. How do you reach that on point buy? I'm pretty certain no stat can reach 20. Can reach 20 off point buy. Because what, your traits, you're not getting any stat bonuses from your race, from what I can tell. And you've raised your dex through squat nimbleness. So I don't know where the other, unless the DM gave you like a +2 for your race, I generally do not know how you reach that off point buy. I mean, it would somewhat explain how those intelligence charismas are low, but point buy I think has a limit of reaching like 16 or 18 from memory. But again, my memory of this is very limited. Super min-maxing and you might be able to do it. But I thought point buy had a limit though. Am I wrong about that, Steph? I thought point buy had like a limit of you could only go maximum of 16 or 18. Like you couldn't reach a 20. And from what I can tell, there's no like, I don't see any feat that explains where the ability. Oh wait, no. Okay, no, I see you took ability score improvement. That explains it. So that meant you must have had a 17, so it would have been +1 off. Okay, now I see how you did it. Now I see how you did it. My bad, Kobold. You're right. Okay, I want to check and see how the how that looks on the stable magic-infused goblin. Where is it? Okay, so that does work. So you can code it that way. Well, then I'm going to clean this up. Disengage or hide action. Perfect. So that link does work. So I'm going to copy that. Boom. Quickly give it one last copy to get the hide in there. I'm starting to remember this coding again. It's working wonders. Okay. 15 from point buy, 2 dex stat from race, 1 from squat, and 2 dex from 4th level. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was wondering where, because it doesn't say in the thing where that racial bonus comes in. Like, it's not written in the section, so it genuinely confused me for a second. But it's all good. That makes sense now. Okay, perfect. All right, perfect. The stable version is made. Now it's time to make the unstable version. Let's go. Yeah. Yeah. So then, all right. see, where is it? Stable. Create. Let's go. But yeah, that's interesting because then what did you have then as your, did you have a +1 like bonus somewhere then as well? Or I guess that must have gone into wisdom potentially. But yeah, that's interesting. I think he must have like not coded the race up correctly because it definitely feels like it should be in the trait somewhere if he's coded it correctly in D&D Beyond. Because I've coded races before. I've made my own races. They've been fun as hell to use. Okay, so yeah, so this is gonna have some interesting ones. So we're gonna keep the nimble escape. I'm going to I'm just thinking. Yeah, so we'll cast base ice knife. That's fine. Okay, so this is the unstable one, which means this is going to go absolutely bonanza mode. So we'll keep the chilled body. We need to get the, what is it? That freeze Thor trauma. There we go. We might weaken the effect though, because it's a lot of damage. That probably should not be as high as that. Custom lineage isn't homebrew. I think it's just a basic thing you can use on yourself to make something. Ah, that's what it is. Okay, that makes sense. I guess it just doesn't show that in the what is it? The features and traits section, which is what confused me. But that makes more sense. I keep forgetting about the custom lineage feature. Right. Uses its ice punch or ray of frost. It takes, I'm going to say this one, because these are going to be slightly stronger than the previous. My thoughts behind Orchid is the board god just created her and didn't give any guidance or nothing, just left them to their own devices, and she's more of a feral animal hunter. That sounds like something that, yeah, that definitely sounds like something a board god would do. And definitely an animal hunter because of how, because of the fact they're carnivores.
Good evening.
Oh, thank you for the follow, Kobold. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. Yeah, welcome to my little realm on the internet. But yeah, no, that's a pretty cool idea though. I do like that as a concept. Okay, so how do we? Okay, so the unstable ones. I think we buffed their con to 14. The stable one had dex lowered by a lot. I'm going to lower their dex to 2, so it has them to 12, so it has more of an effect. I'm going to say these guys won't have leather armor. It would just be hardened ice. So it's going to be what? So they're going to have less of an armor class. But because of their con, they're going to have more hit points. So that's going to round them off to, what is it, 8? Yeah, to 8. So that's going to be, what is that, 46, so 12 plus 8, so 20. That is correct, right? Yeah, because, was it 46? That's 12 plus 4. I guess it can round off to 18. And I guess these guys would have 22 average. But yeah, no, that's a really cool concept, though. I haven't thought about integrating, like, Starbound races into Homebrew. I should consider doing that. That could be fun. Okay. Yeah, okay, this should all be fine. Yeah, intelligence shouldn't change too much. I could probably actually lower it down to a 10 because they're going to be a bit more wild. Yeah, that should be fine. All right, cool. I may actually also buff their strength a little bit. Like, I want all their physical stats to go up a little bit because of the fact that they're kind of almost in a raging out form because of the instability. My favorite part about her is just the description I gave her. Oh, I need to see this now. Let's see, description. Oh wait, I can't view it because it's in a character sheet, so I can't actually read the description. But I trust it. I trust you'd have the right amount of flair for it. Okay, so the freeze thaw trauma should be fine. Okay, so ice punch. Melee weapon attack. I'm gonna keep it on +4. 25 feet, 1 target. I'm gonna go. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, it can keep that extra cold damage. Actually, I think what we'll do is we'll make the punch. Was it? Because punches are normally a D4. I'm actually gonna make the punch bludgeoning damage, and then we'll add plus what is it? 2d4 cold damage. Just a little bit of cold damage, not too much. Under faith, it just says, "What are gods?" That's pretty funny. I mean, makes sense. If made by a bored god, has no idea what gods are. I did make her hair a flower that she is named after. Fair enough. That makes perfect sense. Although flower hair now just makes me think of Yinu from No Straight Roads, considering her hair is literally a bouquet of roses. The cold breath can get a little bit of a buff to 13. The ray of frost can get a little bit of a buff. 2d8. So that's what 2d8 is 8 plus that, so 10. I don't want to make it 2d6. That might actually be a bit much. Actually, I'm going to, because why not? What is it? What's 2d6 normally? That's 7. Yeah, so this thing's going to hit a lot, but again, it's going to be... It's going to be, weaker. I might actually make this it a +5, actually. Uses its eye punch, ray of frost, or cold breath. My thoughts is that reskin my thoughts is that reskin short swords to be the jaws of some creature she uses as weapons. That's kind of a cool idea. That's definitely an interesting way to have the idea of short swords being essentially like animal bones. That's a nice touch, and definitely fits like the tribal theme of the Florins. I'm trying to remember. Did I give this thing the chill body? Yeah, I did. So let's make it 3d6. Oh wow, this beat's popping. Okay, let's see. So with the cold breath, I'm just like thinking of things in my head. I'm actually half thinking we may actually need to buff this goblin up by a bit, because, or like the challenge rating up by a bit, because I'm just thinking like all these effects are actually going to make this thing a bit too strong. My friend keeps saying I shouldn't give her a fire weakness, even though it would fit so well. I mean, yes, it would fit thematically. Mechanically, though, yeah, that would give you a big disadvantage if you had like a fire vulnerability, because a lot of things use fire. So it's probably makes sense that you don't have fire vulnerability as a Florin. Considering I don't think naturally they do either. Okay, so I'm actually going to move this back down to a +4. It's just the damage that should be upped, because I didn't up the plus to hit, did I, on these things? No, I didn't. So that's fine. Yeah, easy. Okay, perfect. Actually wondering if I should make the snowball have a have like a cold effect. That could be good to like make it reduce movement speed. Okay, where's the unstable? I'm gonna quickly grab its. I'm gonna quickly grab this and remember that it's called Binding Ice. Binding Ice. There we go. Base Starbound, none of the races have any passive abilities. I mean, you say that, but you forget that what's it called? The light creatures, the Star Children or whatever, they have a passive ability of brighter like they have like a passively brighter like night illumination. But modded Starbound, aka the Fracken Races mod, gives them all passives. The Nova Kids, yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, they do have that passive going for them. I haven't actually played any of modded Starbound. I should look at getting the Fracken Races mod. I'd be curious to see how that changes things. Because I assume that applies to both the enemies and the player characters. Like, it's not just one or the other, it's both. Maybe again, what ice stuff can we have that's not too broken? Wait, I swear that wasn't there earlier. What is Frost Fingers? Freezing cold blast from your fingertips in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a con save, taking 2d8 cold on a failed save. Cold freezes non-magical liquids in the area that aren't being worn or carried. Interesting. Okay. New idea. I'm going to make it these guys have the ice knife. And I'm actually going to give the stable magic-infused goblins the frost fingers. I did not know that they added that spell. That must have been like part of one of the new books. Frost fingers. Saving that. Just double checking some stuff. Yeah. Actually, no. I'm gonna not do that because then it kind of invalidates because the cold breath kind of invalidates. Is kind of invalidated by frost fingers otherwise. So never mind. We won't do that. Such as avians have a higher jump and take less fall damage. Oh, interesting. That actually makes a lot of sense because they are birds. What do the Florins get as a passive then? Because Florins were what I normally played in that game. Okay, let's think of it. So 22. I should probably give them just 1d4. Or actually, no. I'll give them... Because what? They have 20 hit points. 22. If I give them 1d4, that's 2. 3 will be 1d6. I think I kind of want to do the 1d6. Make them a bit more volatile. And Florins have a passive heal when in direct sunlight and get stronger the more hungry they get. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, the passive heal in direct sunlight is fantastic. And then stronger the more hungry they get. That makes sense. They are very voracious people. But yeah, that's cool. I'm going to look into that mod. That Fracken Races mod actually sounds really cool. Okay. I'm just thinking. I'm going to go with 1d4. I'm going to go 1d4 plus 2. Because what? The unstable wargs had 2d4 plus 2. I think 1d4 plus 2 makes sense because they have less health. And that's still, average 4 damage that they're taking each turn. That should balance them out. 80 feet of extra range. Yeah, that's fine. Humans get the passive of common sense. Does that actually do anything for them? Or is it just, they just have no passive? Like, does common sense actually have an effect? Or was that just a joke that flew over my head? Because I could imagine that as well. Okay, is that everything? The sensors are fine. Their skills I should probably change up. Because of the damage, I'm going to up their challenge rating to 2. Because what, this was a 2, this was a 3, so yeah, this will be a 2. I'm actually going to give them, a, what is it? I'm going to give them an extra charge of innate spellcasting. I'm going to head off. Have a good rest of your stream. Can't wait to hear more about D&D shenanigans. Well, good, Steph. Thank you for popping in. It's always great to have you around. So yeah, thank you. Humans get basically no passive since they're super basic. And I said it wrong. They are immune to common sense and decency. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Also, thank you for the hydrate and the stretch, Steph. I will do that now. Oh, there we go. I'm going to quickly grab this description. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. They do get more damage using swords and guns as a passive, I guess, but every race gets weapon proficiencies. Ah, okay, yeah, no, now I see what you mean. Yeah, no, that I can understand now why you're like, yeah, humans don't get any real passives, which is understandable. Okay, I think that should fix up most of that. My only question is, do I potentially make them roll to... Do I make them... Oh, wait. Oh, I forgot the other thing. I need to give them the death burst because they are... Because, you know, they are unstable. That can go after the 3's Thor trauma. Yeah, that's fine. There we go. Yeah, perfect. So that should be fine. Because again, yeah, they'll die. It's also kind of good that we're doing the that you know, we're stacking the 3's Thor trauma with the death burst, because then it also means that it can potentially hurt other creatures around it that aren't just, you know, the players. Florence get immunity to being electrified though. Oh, that would actually make things so much easier, because I remember electrocution in Starbound being an absolute pain. Oh, that drove me mad every time. Because it came up so often. Like, more than I ever expected it to. Okay. Is there anything else I need to worry about for the unstables? I don't think so, except for, like, changing movement. For now, let's just save the changes that we have. And of course, it's going to do the exact same thing as last time, so great. Time to reload. I don't know why it does this. It's genuinely a little bit frustrating that I have to, like, reload the page every time. They deal 20% more damage with bows and 15% with spears and have a chance to deal poison when using spears or daggers. Oh, just having strap poison. Wait, one question about that. Does the poison stack? Like, can you essentially, what's the word? Like, does that chance to poison, does that stack on top of other elemental effects that weapon has? Like, say you have a spear that does fire damage. Is there a chance you can also poison as well as burn with that spear? Just a genuine curious question, because I do remember, like, it was half the reason that those things were, like, so good to have was because of the brain will kick in. Yeah, because of like those extra effects. It's just additional poison damage, not a status, and yes, you could. Ah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I am going to nerf their stealth, because if I look at the stable ones, Yeah, they had stealth +6. Actually, I should have lowered the stealth on them as well. Yeah, both of them should be. Actually, I'm going to just lower it to 4 and that should be fine. Because the unstables are just going to naturally be not so stealthy. I think the others can stay as a +6. Oh, I'm just going to clear the base value. It doesn't matter. There we go. And now movement. I'm actually going to make them a tad bit slower. I'm going to give them 25 feet. And actually, I'm going to quickly change up the description of this. I'm going to just make it that their movement speed reduced by 5 when they use the binding ice. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable modification to make. And Frackin' Races gives every race food they can eat and can't eat, such as Florence can only eat meat and can eat it raw. Oh, that's actually good. Yeah, that's a nice change. Cause yeah, like I was always curious of being like, why are the Florins still eating like berries if they're, you know, in their description carnivores? But that makes sense. That is a good change to make. And if you eat raw meat, you get a temp damage boost. Oh, that's good. That's really good. I like that. Oh, I need to look into that Frackin' Races mod. That would genuinely change. Everything about playing Starbound, because, you know, it didn't feel like the race selection was important at the start, but with that actual change, that completely makes it so much more interesting to play and gives more reason to try out each race on its own. Thank you for introducing me to that mod, Kobold. I am definitely going to look into that now. All right, I think with that we've fixed up everything. Yeah, I think with that we have now secured all our new versions of these magic-infused creatures, which is perfect. We still have the boosted ones, but I'm honestly thinking I'll probably just chuck them out. Like, I don't think we need the boosted magic-infused ones. Where's my collection? So I think what we'll do is I will quickly filter the spy monsters, and we're going to go find the boosted ice one, and we're just going to chuck it out. Like, we don't need this one because, let's be honest, this thing is stupid broken and we do not need it. Because, like, look at half of these. This thing is disgusting. Like, being able to cast Sleet Storm and Ice Storm? No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Actually, you know what? We'll keep them for now and we'll consider reworking them in the future. If you get Frackin' Universe, it changes the whole game into something different where you need to research stuff to craft stuff, and adds new planets, creatures, and dungeons. Changes so much. Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, definitely. I'm definitely keen now to look into that. Because yeah, if that completely changes the whole game into something that feels like more of a challenge, then I'd love that. So yeah, I'll definitely look into that. That might be something fun to play on stream, perhaps. But yeah, okay. But I think for now I am happy with what we've accomplished. Like these new magic-infused goblins and wargs now actually look a lot more balanced and can be better run. I don't know yet how I would share these. I'd say, I guess, if you're on D&D Beyond, I guess you can just you can just search these up and you can use them. Otherwise, I might also like do a screenshot thing and put them in like a Google Drive or something so that you guys can just basically download them from there and access them for yourself, essentially. But yeah, I think with that, I think we shall call it there for tonight. I will probably work on some of this stuff myself in the background, mainly just like changing the regular like magic infused like goblins and wargs based on elemental types. I'm going to change them in the background, and then we'll work on the boosted ones the next time. Lich get a passive that lets them heal when standing in oil and doesn't get slowed down by it. Oh, that's That's quite good, actually. I mean, it makes sense because they're robots. But yeah, that's a nice change. I like that too. But yeah, I think with that, we will call it there. So thank you all for coming. You have been wonderful audience. To those of you watching the VOD, either on YouTube or on Twitch, thank you for your time. I do appreciate that. Special thank yous go out to Steph and of course Hungry Kobold for popping into chat and making this a fun time. Hope this was definitely a fun thing to try. I'm glad that you guys seem to like this. Not gonna lie, I think you could do a floral homebrew super well. Well, thank you. Maybe that might be something I look into potentially making then, based off what Fracken Universe does then. Like looking into like the Fracken race mod, I'd happily make a floral homebrew. That might be something fun to do in the future, to make like homebrews based on like the Starbound races, because I've made homebrew races for the Maokai and the Sunai from the Savage Song, which I will at some point work on stream, and I am working on a few other like special homebrew races that are based on other things. Starbound. Hello, Astro. How are you doing? You seem to be very excited by the mention of Starbound. Hi. How are you doing? Yes, Kobold and I were just chatting about how potentially I might look into making a set of homebrew races based on the Starbound races from, was it the Fracking mod? Yes, Starbound. I started the Starbound convo. Indeed you did, Kobold. Ooh, cool. Yeah, that would be more of a future idea though for a stream. I might actually quickly put it in my notes before I forget. Make Starbound races based on, what was it, the Fracking mod? What's the actual mod of it? What's the actual mod called? The Fracken races. Okay. Based on the Fracken races mod. Yeah. Okay, so I'll write that down as something we can do. Fracken races, that's it. Yep. Yep, perfect. I'll make note of that, and we'll do that in some time in the future. Fracken mod's awesome, legit. I mean, I haven't played it. I haven't played Starbound with Fracken mods, but now I'm really tempted to. Spot exactly like that. Yeah, I kind of figured. I had to go back in like the chat and be like, how do you spell this so I can find it later? But yeah, perfect. Well, we shall definitely save that for another stream. But yeah, like I said, I'll fix up the magic booster of the magic-infused goblins and wargs for the different elements in my own time. We'll maybe work on the boosted ones in the future and maybe start making some homebrew races, because, like I said, I have made homebrew races. Like if I go to here, I can show off, I can give some little teasers of stuff I've done with them. But I have, so I've made the Maokai and the Sunai from the Savage Song, and then I have my own kind of race that I'm working on called the Yamnia, which are basically imagined humans that migrated to the the outer planes and adopted, and basically the energies from those planes mutated them, is essentially the premise of the Yamnia. But we can cover that in another stream. Thank you for the power up there, Nerdy Rainbow. Have a fantastic day and hope you all have a great day. Well, thank you, Kobold. Well, I think now that we're at the end, how about we do the appropriate thing of going for a raid out, because that's what we are good at. So let's cut the music and let's head to our ending panel and let me take a look and see who we can find. Ooh, D&D, indeed. You've sadly just caught the end of this, Nerdy Rainbow, but you'll but if you watch back over the VOD, you'll see some of the stuff we've been doing. I also just have a lot of D&D stuff I've been doing recently. I've played a total of about 17 hours. Wow. That's a lot of hours. All right, let's see. Who can we raid? Ron's doing stuff. My brother's actually doing Elden Ring. You know, it's been a while. Yeah, let's go raid him. Let's go raid my brother. Let's go show him some love. Real quick though, before we do, some things I will mention. One, I am working on getting that recap video sorted for the VODs that were muted due to soundtrack by Twitch. The first recording didn't turn out so well, so I'm gonna actually re-record it, and once I have that out, I'll start posting the campaign creation streams that have audio, just to cover those. I mean, it's not as bad as Stardew on 224 odd hours. Astro, that's not good. I mean, granted, I've seen that my friend has like 350 hours in Starbound. I've only just started playing. I have like an hour and a bit clocked in Starbound, and I feel like this is going to be a rabbit hole that I'm scared to go down. Damn, Astro. Yeah, damn indeed. That's a lot of hours, dude. So I will re-record that recap video and hopefully have it out by Thursday, and then start posting the other VODs. And yeah, that's about it. Let's go raid. Let's go raid Chris, because why not? So everyone pile in. Just so everyone knows, raid message would be pub crawl is our usual. I normally use these emotes when I do it, but of course, feel free to use your own raid emotes if you wish, if you don't have them. But yes, so thank you all for coming. Okay, fine. I will drink some water quickly before we raid out. Thank you, Nerd. Thank you, Rainbow. All right, but yes, with that, I wish you all a very pleasant evening, or a wonderful start to your day. Good night, and raid out.